Hello, welcome to the Lately in JavaScript podcast. Actually, we are still calling it podcast, and it's a video hangout. And finally, we have back Michael Kimsel from Michael. Where have you been? It seems you have been very busy.
Hell, partially. Work, and honestly, yeah. Whoa, look at that! I can sit up a bit. It's always strange because that's where the camera is, but this is where my main screen is. So I'm looking at this to see what's going on. But
okay.
Hello. I was going to try to do a quick screen share of something to show you where I've been, at least part of the time. Can you see that?
It's like a panel.
Yeah. Distance 3.1 miles, 5 kilometers. In only 37 minutes, 55 seconds. I've been running. That's my treadmill.
Whoa.
Whoa,
Oh,
yeah.
I see. I don't use treadmill, so I was not recognizing what could that be.
Yeah. So that's my positive, though I've found out that eating cans of Pringles after you run for 3 or 4 miles does not help weight loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, last month we had Art Sosins taking your place, but it's never the same.
I know. If I had a nickel for me.
I know. We always miss your jokes and your good humor. I hope you are better now, more relieved from your work as you were.
Now that's a knife.
In the past month.
Yeah, that's my Crocodile Dundee moment there. I'm actually. I was telling you. I was starting to tell you before, I'm not really recovered all the way. I'm still kind of in the midst of some things, but I'm somewhat back. So hello.
Yeah, well, I hope you can still make it again as ever, because it's always great to have your insights. And we are going to move on with our podcast and first talk a bit about an article. Let me screen share it here about an article from. Oh wait, I always miss the right, because it just moves away. Okay.
Which article is this?
There we go. That's the one from Mozilla. Let me try to increase the font. Well, there are no miracles with this resolution of Google Hangouts video recording. And anyway, this is an article from the Mozilla blog, on which they comment about why they do not have the file system API in Firefox. That is an API that is still being specified. Actually, they, depending on what your purposes, it could be either the file system API or file writer. And they explain it in the article that, well, basically they want to push everybody to use the IndexedDB API to store anything, including files. So instead of using other APIs, they just support IndexedDB, and they give a couple of reasons depending on your purposes. For instance, when people want to store files locally to avoid server accesses, they still recommend to use the IndexedDB because you can store files in there. And the other purpose that the people may want to use file APIs other than that would be to access documents in the machine of the user, like things they want to share, like pictures and music and other stuff.
But see, that's the problem, or that's a problem with. They reference it here because they're calling it. They're saying we're not implementing the file system API, but that is not an API for interacting with the local file system. So
Yeah, they
I mean,
explain it in the article as well.
More than anything else. Who's just joined us?
Hello, guys.
Hello, Arturs.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning.
You just, I guess you heard about your name and you could not resist.
Oh, you mentioned me
Of course.
already?
Thank you.
It's okay. I just wanted to show you one thing I just got today. Do you see this?
Oh, look at
Oh,
that! A
did
big
it
blue
arrive
elephant.
already?
Yeah.
Oh, the Latvian post office is working very, very fast because it was not supposed to arrive this soon. Well, congratulations, you won your deserved
Thank you.
elephant. Yes, well, the post office here did not give me much hope that would not arrive in less than 20 or 30 days, but I think because no other developer that also won the elephant got theirs already. At least they did not report to me, but I am not seeing the tracking. Well, kudos to Latvian post office because they did their part very quickly. And well, I hope you are glad about it. Anyway, just to mention very briefly why you got that elephant is because you participated in the Innovation Award Challenge that was an initiative. Actually, you even suggested it to encourage developers to start sending more classes to the JS Classes site. And it somehow worked to encourage everybody in the Innovation Award has already started thanks to that push in the contributions. So that elephant is deserved by you and the others that submitted several notable packages. Well, anyway, we'll get back to the latest classes more at the end of the show, and now getting back to the actual topic that we're commenting. And
Yes.
Michael, you were commenting about to access local files of the user and it would not be this API, right?
What? Yeah. The name of the API is pointed out. They don't actually mention that exactly that it's a bad name, but they say the file system API is not what's used to access local pictures and things on the local file system. It's effectively creating a sandboxed area that's only available to that browser that looks like a file system. So whether or not they implement file system API has no bearing on whether you can drag and drop photos and things like that. So I think some of this is a naming issue more than anything else. The other thing I look at is that they could implement the file system API on top of IndexedDB if they felt like it. And that's
well,
just
actually,
go ahead. I'm pulling that one out of thin air, but there would be no. It might be a performance hit, but there's no technical reason why you couldn't implement that API. And instead of a sandboxed area on the drive, it's translating stuff into IndexedDB records.
Yeah. Well, actually, well, this is to access files that the user may want to share, and the idea they say that there is the device storage API that is more adequate for that purpose because it allows the sites, the applications to browse the files in those well, we call it a sandbox. Probably that's more accurate term because it would not allow the applications to access the whole hard drive of the user computer. It's more restricted to some personal documents, and nothing very sensitive in terms of security, and that well, anyway, they still say that the file API was not for that purpose, because the file API is to access files that the user already picked. So in this case, this device storage API, I'm not familiar with it, but I suppose it is meant to access the listings of files without the user explicitly picking a specific files that may or may not want to share. I would have to look more into this.
Yeah, but well, it's saying right there the device storage API is basically a simple file system API. That is what you would use for storing on your local hardware, for reading and writing from your local drive. So device storage is what people think of, or they think of file system API if they think about, oh, I got to get my local pictures from my computer. But you're using device storage API. They're just not focusing on file system API because that's the private sandbox, and they want to focus on IndexedDB. I think they could build a file system API on top of that if they so chose later for compatibility, to say we support file system API, but it's I don't know why people are getting so hot and bothered about this. But
I think there are different APIs for different purposes, and I think they are trying to say that people make confusion between them and think it's all the same.
Yep.
But for each purpose, there is another API for that. And the last purpose that they comment is low-level file manipulation, which should be something that I'm not sure if there is any API that can do that, like updating parts of files or reading just small chunks.
Header blocks or something, yeah.
And this is more complicated because to do it right, at least for write access to them, required some locking mechanisms. And anyway, for that purpose, they mention file writer API, which is apparently an API that would allow that, not the file API, nor the IndexedDB, nor anything. Well, I don't know. I confess I'm not familiar with these APIs, at least in detail, because I did not come across an application that I could use it. Anyway, but actually we commented last month about there is this article, I think it was by Adi Osmani, that he was suggesting to use local storage to cache scripts on the browser sides to avoid server access overhead. That probably would be something that could also be implemented with IndexedDB. I don't know. Michael, do you use any of these APIs in your applications?
I looked at one. I looked at testing out something, not specifically putting like a file in there, but putting data in I think it was IndexedDB in Firefox maybe a year or so ago, maybe a bit, maybe 2011, and it was okay, but I was ending up writing something that was very specific to that. It wasn't cross-platform at that point. And really these days, I say these days, maybe in the last 6 months, I'm finding that the work that I'm doing, I have to go back and support things, IE8 on Windows XP, even maybe IE7. So I'm having to write code that has to work on very legacy. I mean, in my mind, very legacy browsers don't have this. So I would probably get some benefit by doing some custom stuff to say, well, if you're on Chrome or if you're on this, then do this. And I just haven't had the time to optimize for that.
Or the opportunity, because there must be some purpose that one which using those APIs makes some sense. Well, I think at least that's what happens with me.
Yeah. Well, just keeping large chunks of data down that are essentially already structured or maybe parsed out a bit more, as opposed to just a blob of data that you have to go through again, or pre-calculating stuff.
Yeah.
There's some. I can see benefits to it. I'm not working on things that right now that easily lend themselves to me spending time focusing on it.
Right. What about you, Arthurs? Have you used much or any of these APIs for accessing files?
No, none of this. Usually, if you need something, you store it in, I don't know, in cookies that most compatible. If it doesn't fit in cookies, it's too
Right.
large, then you use local storage, and that's probably it.
Yes, that's also a concern because yeah, applications must run at least in a compatible way in different browsers. And you're right. I think at least for a good while, cookies are more reliable. At least if you want to use just one method and not have code different for each browser to support some storage mechanism. Well, anyway, this actually ties to the next topic because it is about a wrapper
IndexedDB.
library.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me screen share the article here. There is this article here from the Badass JavaScript blog. I like these names that people give to blogs. Badass JavaScript. Okay. Anyway, there is this IDB wrapper, which is a cross-browser wrapper for offline web apps. Basically, it's a wrapper around the IndexedDB implementations. Well, I don't know if the available implementation in different browsers are not compatible, but it also mentions local storage here, and Web SQL is dead, so they need to move on to something that has a brighter future, which would be in IndexedDB. Well, I never tried this. I did not even knew that probably there would be a need for a wrapper to encapsulate the access to IndexedDB, but this certainly attempts to address the problem of differences between browsers. Are you guys familiar with this library or just heard of it?
I'm not familiar with this particular library. I'm familiar with the idea of wrapper libraries in general. That's a pretty broad statement to make.
Yes.
Look at me. I know what a wrapper library is. Yeah. Hey,
Wow.
I'm the man. I can see why you would want to use it in that there's going to be some minor differences either now or in the future. Just writing to any abstraction layer, unless performance is a huge concern, makes a lot more sense. So, but I was looking at the initial point, and it says, "Hey, this works in." It's a wrapper for the native stuff that's in Firefox, Chrome, and IE10. And just getting back to I'm having to deal with large amounts of IE8 right now. It's interesting. I wonder the idea of saying IE10. We say Firefox, we say Chrome, sometimes we say version numbers, but those are both mostly automatically updated now. It would be hard for you to find somebody that's using Firefox 16 because almost everybody has their Firefox auto update on now. If you're using Firefox, you're probably auto updating. Same thing with Chrome. Not so much with IE. And it's still strange, I think, sometimes to say browser versions in the Microsoft world. To me, this would be easier to say. Well, I mean, we know what it's browser thing, but from a user standpoint, to say that you have to have Windows 8, that's a nice clean cutoff point because you only get IE10 with that. So I'm bringing in my current work problems into this. So I'm sorry. Go back to IndexedDB.
Well, actually. I don't know, but I think I read some news talking about IE10 being made available for
Windows 7.
for Windows 7, or did I read it?
No, I think it's right, but it only recently came out, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. Okay, I'm going to say that there may be something that doesn't work in IE10 on Windows 7, but it does work in IE10 on Windows 8. Given the history of the browser is an integral part of the operating system, and we can't separate them, and they're the exact same thing.
Oh,
And,
I heard that, but that was like 10 years ago.
I know, but 12, 15. But if there wasn't anything in the browser that relied so heavily on the operating system, they could have released IE10 6 months ago.
Right.
I think there's going to be some anomalies between IE10 Windows 7 and IE10 Windows 8.
Well, I guess that
And you would need the IDB wrapper for that, for example.
Right.
There you go, tying it back.
Well, anyway, I think they are trying to push Windows 8 at the expense of IE10, and since it is not working, okay, plan B, let's release it for Windows 7.
Yeah.
That's what it seems to be, but okay.
You're just cynical.
No. I have many friends in Microsoft. I would not have reason to be cynical. And they know what they are doing. Okay, well, anyway, well, basically this topic is covered. We need to move on to the next topic, on which we're going to comment something reasonably recent. Although it refers to not a topic that we haven't covered before. Let me screen share here.
What are you sharing?
The ASM.js.
Ooh.
Well, is this? I don't know if you can increase the font larger. Well, basically, this is a project that there's even a specification, but basically this is a subset of JavaScript that is intended to make developers use only code that would translate efficiently. Well, would be more efficient to translate from language compilers. They even talk about C and C++. I think this has to do with that project that we commented here several times. It's MScript, right? That one that converts, compiles C++ into LLVM bytecode, and then that bytecode can be translated to JavaScript.
Ladies love the virtual machine. Yep.
Yeah. Well, this is a very. Is it? I think it's low level, right?
Whatever. I'm still child of the '80s. I think LL Cool J. That's ladies love him. Ladies love him. Hey, what can you do?
Yeah, you can. You would like to also be able to allocate memory manually and deal with memory management and all that stuff, right? Like
from
in the
ASM.js.
Well, basically, they call it a subset, but I think the purpose is to make it more similar to C and C++. So the conversion between C and C++ programs is more would generate more efficient code. That's what I read from this description of the project. They even have a fact page here. No.
Yeah. Are you looking at it? You bringing it up? Yeah, subset of JavaScript. What kind of performance benefits? So this would end up being compiled. It would take the subset and compile it down to C or something else.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's the one. Were you not getting the what my screen sharing?
I had to go to my screen here. It was just a little too small to see on yours.
Right.
It's
I know
okay.
that we can do miracles because the recording of the video in Google Hangouts is limited in size.
Don't worry about it. I'm
Well,
not worried.
no, it's just to try to give people something to read while they watch the video, but it's hard. Well, anyway, this is just to let you know that this project exists, and there are people that have different concerns than the majority of us that probably would not be so interested in converting C and C++ programs into JavaScript. Arturs, did you ever see this project HemScript and probably others that compile to C and C++
Well,
to
no, but what I
JavaScript?
read from the page that you just showed, that basically, yeah, you can define that you use ASM. I don't know how to ASM.
ASM.
Yeah, ASM.
Awesome is also an interesting way of reading it.
Okay, and that basically it could. Yeah, it could make this code more efficient by skipping the type checks and stuff like that. But best thing that I've learned, that I read, that it would also run on simple browsers without anything more efficient. But it is compatible. So if someone wants
Yes,
to use it, he can do it.
it's a
Simple
subset.
browsers
Oh,
like IE. Ooh, ooh! I went there. I know. I know. I shouldn't have gone there.
Another eye joke.
Oh,
Well,
sorry.
anyway, that's just more a curiosity than something that everybody would be interested. Anyway, now moving on to probably a more interesting topic, which is about the async JS library. Let me just screen share here. If I can pick the right, if it lets me pick the right screen. Okay. And well, basically the idea is to try to make asynchronous programming at least less of a hell, as I call it. I don't know what you guys think. Some people, I noticed that some people complain a lot when I say that asynchronous programming is a hell, but all those nested callbacks and things that probably are not very maintainable. But
You notice here when they are when they're complaining to you, they are using one word after another, single file, sequentially. They don't spew 95 words simultaneously at you. They
right.
send one word at a time. They send you one email at a time, perhaps, and then you reply back. That's all I need to say, nothing more.
So your solution would be to use a queue.
There you go. Or maybe a capital Q, if you wanted to
Yeah.
be really emphatic about it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, what they suggest using here in async.js is this library provides several resources. One of them is to be able to have callbacks being called in parallel for different.
Interestingly, I'm not seeing any promises in here,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
thought I might see promises.
Right. Well, my problem is that I do not believe in promises.
Well, okay.
And
Commitment then.
translating that into asynchronous JavaScript, it just a different way to deal with the same hell, but in the end, the hell does not change. And actually, if you try to change your own programming just to match whatever is being proposed, it's probably a greater hell. I don't know. That's my opinion. And well, and have you guys tried this async.js library in practice, or at least read about it?
Well, no, I have.
Oh, look at that!
You're translating me.
Asynchronous Hangouts don't work either. Oh crap! Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you promising?
Yes, I promise that you can go first.
We are very metaphoric today.
Yeah, well, only thing that I've tried to use that, as Michael already mentioned, are promises, and well, at least as I've heard, it was the most common approach to deal with many callbacks, and this parallel approach, well, it seems efficient really if you can iterate through all of them and then call them in some way. So it must probably for some specific case, and I don't know if it would be generally so useful. But probably there are more other functions to be inside the async lib.
Right. Talking about the 80s, Michael, did you have an Amiga computer? No.
I had an Amiga way back in the day.
But did you program it?
I didn't much. I played with Deluxe Paint.
No, that does not count. I mean, well, I've developed a lot in Amiga computers, and of course, being a desktop operating system, you have to deal with parallel calls, parallel events that run asynchronously, and the solution that they had there is to have a message queue, and any event that would happen, often related with I/O and stuff, they would be sent to a queue, and you would consume the message arriving to the queue one at a time. You would not have to use these callbacks and things like that, and you could put it in a big switch statement and say, if this message came from here, then reply this way. And well, anyway, at least in Amiga operating system, there were synchronous operations. You could access files without having to use a callback to deal with the file operations.
Does this look like a queue? Sorry, it's kind of an inside joke there.
Yeah, well,
but many people just wouldn't like that. It's. I think the idea of having a separate message queue is already something else that you have to rely on. If your language structure, your language dynamics all support the idea of callbacks, your language and all of your asynchronous stuff can happen inside of one engine rather than having a separate. That said, some JavaScript engine. I don't know if you could. I don't know how easy it would be to do this, but you could bundle a built-in message queue. We have built-in databases, for goodness sake, in these things. So a built-in message queue that people could subscribe to and push to and things like that probably wouldn't be that difficult. But we've been rather entrenched in the culture of async callbacks over the past few years. I'm not sure if the majority of people that make these decisions would be able to push the idea of a message queue successfully.
Well, it's just a way of handling it in a way that you don't have to nest callbacks.
Right. Though
nesting callbacks, it's the hell.
Right. I don't disagree.
Right. Well, anyway.
But people have a lot of code already invested in working this way, and yeah, there's just a lot that's been invested in the last several years going this way. Changing directions probably wouldn't be very popular.
Well, I was not proposing to change the directions, but I just presenting a different way of handling it in a way that is not a hell.
Okay.
Well, anyway, the part of the topic is related to the fact that at least Amiga operating system had synchronous file system calls and calls to other things that when you use, for instance, Node.js, you have to rely only on asynchronous calls, and that's what makes it a hell, unfortunately. But well, that's the sort of the rule of the game. If you want to play with the technology the way it is, you have to deal with this asynchronous thing. And this also ties with the next topic, which is basically related with an article that I wrote. It was not specifically about JavaScript, but it was related with an eventual war between languages. I'm trying to just increase the font here, not too much. Well, basically, there was a guy that in the Quora site, they put questions and somebody will try to answer. He asked people if language would be at war, what what part would you take, and so. And there was a guy that provided a very imaginative answer, and which compared languages with the characters of the Lord of the Rings story, and he start comparing the one ring with C, which would be the entity that has all the power that the other language want to have, and then start comparing other languages with some good and some evil characters in the story. And actually he compared practically all the languages here. And actually I wrote an article about it related to it, and explaining why I think PHP would be a hobbit, because despite that is not a very strong language, or even the fastest language, is in the end is the language that solves all the problems. And I actually give several points here explaining why I think that. It's just an amusing article. It's not meant to be taken too seriously. It's just
I won't. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay. Yeah, Manuel had asked me about this before, and I have to admit, I don't have to, I'm going to admit, I don't really know much of anything about Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Tolkien, whatever. It's completely beyond me.
Yeah, but don't worry, because that's the only metaphor that mattered for this article, is that PHP would be a hobbit because in the story the hobbits are the ones that solve the problems, even though they have help from other people from other races. I don't know if race is the correct term, but I think in that in the story of the Lord of the Rings, there are different races. And anyway, the relation of this with JavaScript is that I said that JavaScript could also be a hobbit, but the synchronous programming making it a hell. So it's not so much a very pleasant solution for all the problems. Well, that's just my opinion, of course, and this is, and as I said, it's not meant to be taken too seriously. Well, Michael, you said did you say that you did not read the article, or you are not just into the story of the?
Well, I mean, I read the article, just didn't make a lot of. I wasn't making many of the connections because
Oh, I see.
I don't. It's just
Right.
yeah.
Because
I don't know the characters. I don't know the premise all that much. So
you don't. Well, actually, I just compared PHP with the one character of the story, and
I don't know that character. So
well, so if you don't know the character, and for all those that minority that does not know the story, it's the hobbits are the eventual heroes because they solve the story despite they are not very strong or very fast or nor very, very beautiful, which is a common complaint about PHP.
Okay. I thought you were talking about me for a moment, but
no.
And then you get a little personal
you'll
there.
probably be an elf, I think.
Hey, I'm still here. Okay. Go
No,
carry on.
No, but since you don't know the story, being a elf is a compliment.
Well, thank you.
Arthur, do you know the story of Lord of the Rings, or you are like
Unfortunately,
Michael?
I know.
What?
I know. Unfortunately, but I know.
Why?
Didn't really
Don't you enjoy a good story of many books and movies of more than 3 hours that you almost fell asleep during the?
Yeah, they even say that it would be faster to read the books than watch a movie.
Probably. I didn't read the books, but I watched the movies. So, what is your take on this?
I don't know. Well, okay, PHP might be a hobbit because it's a main character.
Ooh, good one.
Well, what about the relation with JavaScript? Do you agree with my assertion that JavaScript could be a hobbit, but due to the asynchronous programming hell, it's not is as pleasant?
Well, actually, as I
Java.
remember, in the original article, I think that JavaScript was the one that was hobbit, right?
I don't even remember. I could check, but the point was not the original article because I disagree with most of the comparisons. They called PHP as an orc because PHP teamed with the bad guys, and the bad guys would be C++. They are trying to making connections between PHP and the Facebook hip hop compiler, which initially used to be a PHP to C++ translator, but that's not true anymore. So that comparison does not match. But I bet a lot of people would like to compare PHP with orcs because orcs are ugly.
Hey.
Lots of PHP detractors use the ugliness argument against PHP. Well, in the end, PHP is still the most popular, at least for the web, I think. Anyway, what you were saying about the comparison? What do you think about JavaScript could also be a hobbit?
Well, if you compare it to PHP, then I don't know. Yes, I've heard many complaints about PHP, but I haven't heard that much complaints of JavaScript. Usually, there are not so many JavaScript haters, I think.
Yeah,
and
that's because they do not have a choice. Because JavaScript on the browser, that's the only choice.
Oh well, yeah, probably.
Well, yeah. Well, most of the PHP haters, they just hate it because their favorite language is not preferred. Well, there is no WordPress for Python or Ruby. Ruby.
I think it would be a golem. JavaScript would be a golem.
Why?
Driven mad and twisted by that's a character. I thought it was a type of character. I'm trying to Google for this best I can.
Now, golem is
it's a particular character.
Yeah, it's a character that's full of envy of the others, so probably it would be some other language whose
Nah.
developers are envious of some other language.
Yeah, there's
I'm
no way
not
to
going
just
to name
find.
names.
You better not.
Uh,
There'll be a war.
all the last three people that still watch this hangout will drop it completely.
Oh, there we go. Orcs, goblins. Maybe it would be a goblin. Maybe it would be a I don't know. I'm not good at this. We can move on because I'm just googling around and
Or
Well,
we can watch a
anyway.
movie.
yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys in about 4 hours. Okay.
No, 4 hours each episode because there are like
3 episodes, I think.
Yeah, but it's gonna take me a few hours to torrent it at first, and then.
oh, I
Oh,
see.
I mean, torrent it from my paid account that I pay money for to get things legally.
Yeah, from
That's
Apple.
what I meant.
You are going to torrent it to the Apple TV.
Yeah. Well, but they don't. Oh, don't even get me started. They don't torrent. Brief aside here. I'm not using Safari 6 with JavaScript engine. There you go. The JavaScript type. I upgraded to Mountain Lion. I won't say it's a big mistake. It was not all that fun, but I actually paid for it. Like I'm going to pay $20. Going to go do my upgrade. Pay Apple their money. Try to download this thing. It's like 1 day and 8 hours. Insane. So I just went and torrented it and installed it, and then it installed. So I went to the App Store. It says you need updates to get to 10.8.2. So I tried to do that, and it was going to be 19 hours. So I went and torrented the update. Like I paid money. That's a whole other thing. I would love them to just build a BitTorrent thing into their App Store, sign the stuff, cryptographically make it, and all that with all that. But my goodness, I should be able to pay money and get something faster than stealing it.
Yeah, they are so successful that you have to enter in a queue to be served.
It was. Now, if they'd been using asynchronous web serving,
Oh, that would
that
be.
could have been it. They're probably serving each byte one at a time.
Yeah, probably. They send they call a callback function to every byte you got.
Got a question, or got something I want to mention briefly. It's not on topic, but it's a quick point of discussion. Archers, jump in if you've ever played or heard with this. And it's not directly related to JavaScript, though it may have an impact on things like Node and Rhino and things like that. Last week, I learned about something called, should my screen be on? How about my screen be on? Come on, there we go. Hello, everybody. By the way, yeah, if anybody, can anybody read Russian here? Can you read that?
Maybe Arthur's.
Make world cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay. I stumbled on a article about how GitHub had increased their MySQL query speed by about 30%. And what they're doing is they're running MySQL with a different malloc, a different memory allocator. Most of us, if we're using Linux, we're using whatever comes on our standard Linux distro. Using malloc is there, everything symlinks against it, or does the dynamic loading against a malloc SO. There are other memory allocation libraries that perform differently. This was an eye-opener for me. I did not know this. And they said they tested out. This article had a few different tests on different malloc libraries, and it didn't mean that every single thing ran 30%, but the MySQL query system, the way it allocates memory and releases it, how it deals with that when it's dealing with query, when it's dealing with caches, when it's dealing with its execution plan and whatnot, just by having a different malloc library, it was about 30% faster. Interesting to me, and I haven't seen anybody do benchmarks to keep this on JavaScript to do that with any Node.js. Does it run faster if you use a different malloc library? That's kind of just a JS related thing. But had either of you ever heard about using different malloc libraries to speed things up?
Yeah, well, I don't know about. Well, this is no longer JavaScript related, but for instance,
Not
in
directly.
PHP, they do not use the standard C library malloc function calls. They use their own memory allocation, and I'm surprised that they're saying that they discover something that MySQL developers did not know already, to have their own memory allocation functions, so they could optimize at least certain use cases. Well,
I mean, if you're kind of just thinking about, in general, a subsystem is something that you could have a small number of people that just get very, very, very excited about malloc stuff and can tune the heck out of that one library. And if you can replace one library with another, standard interfaces and all that, they're getting a sizable 30% is a big change in queries without having to change
I don't know. Well, that would be a very basic optimization. For instance, at least in PHP, that was done, I think, even in PHP 3. They replaced the memory allocation by some more customized that avoided calling so much the OS memory freeing and memory allocation calls. They would allocate larger chunks of memory at the time and then use that. Well, anyway, to put this more on topic, in the last well, this is still not related with MySQL, but since I mean with JavaScript, but since we talked about IndexedDB, which be basically a key value store, and in the MySQL 5.6 that was released not a very long time ago, at least the generally available release, they now provide a memcached interface to access data in InnoDB tables directly without having to execute a SQL query. And if you just want to check key value storage for that purpose, it would be faster and would be very similar to what you do in IndexedDB, because all key value store APIs are very similar. And well, that's the only relation that I found to have with this anything with JavaScript. Well, anyway, back to the actual JavaScript world. We're going to move on to our final regular sections, on which we comment about the latest classes published in the JS classes. This month, again, like in last month, let me screen share here. We are going to comment about the latest classes, not yet the Innovation Award winners, because they were not yet announced. They will start to be announced next month. So we're going to comment about any published classes that will not be nominated to the Innovation Award, so we do not influence the decision of the voters that will vote on the eventual winners of next month. So
you already know which ones will be nominated.
I know, because I'm the moderator of the site, remember? Well, anyway, today is 28, and the nominations will be published tomorrow. That is, will be already a new month. And basically, there are, I think, just about 3 who will not be nominated. Well, I can start from a couple of that are very similar, because they are for sending AJAX requests. Well, this kind of class is not innovative. That's why they are not being nominated, because
they are asynchronous. Or because they are async.
Well, that would be just a detail. Some allow to control the synchronous and the synchronous, but they are just basically wrappers. There is this one from Pierre-Henri Soria. I'm trying to fake my French accent. I
Ooh la
suppose it's
la.
French. Well, Michael, you are more
Worldly.
trained in foreign languages. How
Pierre
would you
Henri
read his
Soriano.
name?
Pierre Henri Soriano.
Okay. Well, I
Soriano.
tried.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
Well, anyway, Pierre has sent several other classes for. He has been sending classes both to PHP classes and JS classes site. So far, he has sent two to the JS classes site. I hope he also continues to send more classes besides these ones. Hopefully, they be innovative, because starting next month we will only be commenting about innovative classes, and this one does something that is reasonably common, which is to wrap AJAX requests. And there is another one that also does something very similar. This JavaScript AJAX request, we call it classes, but basically in JavaScript, to be more accurate, we should call them objects, because there are always pedantic people that do not like to call classes on at least the current version of JavaScript. And this one by Ricardo Luis Rossi from Brazil basically does something very similar, of sending AJAX requests and having callbacks to handle the responses. And that leaves the last one for you to comment.
Where is... I've lost my window. There we go. Screen share. There we go. This is from... Oh, there's 4 names here. Fabio Elicio Melo Nunes. Hope I'm saying that correctly, Fabio. From Brazil.
Your Spanish accent is great.
Oh, okay. There's no need to be that sarcastic. And it's not Spanish, it's Portuguese, okay?
Yeah,
Right?
you should
Right.
know.
Yeah. You trying to... What did I say wrong? Fabio? Am I saying Fabio right?
No, it's that your accent sounds Spanish. It's not the name.
How would you say it? How would you say it as a Brazilian?
As a Brazilian, well, there are already differences between Portuguese of Portugal and Brazil, but in Brazil they would say Fábio Elísio Melo Nunes.
Fabio Elicio Melo Nunes.
Yeah, sounds
Is that good?
similar.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dunka.
Okay, never mind. At
So,
least
this
it
is
sounds
a,
similar to the original name.
This is a he's contributed a calendar jQuery calendar plugin using the plugin mechanism, and very basic. Where's the screen? There's a screenshot of what the calendar looks like. Now, the calendar, it's like what most calendars look like. Though one of the things I had noticed is that the code itself, if you look in the JavaScript and we look here, it is in Portuguese.
Yeah.
So if you need a Portuguese calendar that's Portuguese out of the box,
Yeah.
there you go. It's got the Hoji right there.
Yeah.
I know that's Hoya or Hoya. How would you say that? H-O-J-A-J-E?
Hoje.
Hoja.
Hoje.
Okay. Hoja. Okay.
Well, this is not very uncommon. At least in Brazil, the people are not so acquainted with English, and sometimes they prefer to write code even in Portuguese.
And I think it's useful, because if you needed a calendar
Right,
thing that
right.
already, yeah, like even here, Primeiro dia mês. That's the name of the function.
Yeah.
I did notice. Can we say bisexto on the podcast here? Are we allowed? Is this a family friendly show?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you can say
Okay.
that, because
I was kinda-
it's in
I'm
a foreign language. There is an excuse.
I'm bisexto curious now. What does that mean?
Well, that's
Can I? I don't know. Can
I'm
I? Do
trying
you
to
mark
remember
this as
what is
family
the
friendly?
English word.
Let's go sequential. We
Yeah.
can't do the asynchronous. You next.
Yeah, that's when, what is those years that every 4 years that have the
Leap year.
29th
Leap
February?
year. A leap
Leap
year.
year. It's totally
Leap.
different. I remember. Well, that's what the bisexual means.
Let's
There
keep
is a
everything
calculation
clean.
to determine.
Let's keep it clean. No bisexto jokes. Okay.
Okay. There is an automatic filter on YouTube if you start saying too many.
So if I just started just letting it rip and just said I want to beep, it would just like wow, how did that was
no,
awesome.
They
How
ban
did
the
it do
video. They
that?
take it down.
Oh
They
my
take it down. You cannot publish it anymore.
No, it seems like they got a live filter because I was just saying that I really think that you're full of beep. What?
Oh.
It's like it's just man. Google is so beep crazy about this beep. So I can't do it. It's better on the non-video podcast.
It's the confusions of the mixing foreign languages in the same podcast. Okay, well, basically we covered the latest classes. Well, those that we did not mention are the ones that will be nominated, but by the time you see this podcast being published, if you are not watching it live, you already know that the others are the ones that were nominated. And well, for those that we comment, those authors, I hope they feel encouraged to next time they try to send more innovative packages so we can comment on them. Starting next month, we'll be commenting only on innovative packages, starting from those that won the award in. They were nominated in January and were voted in February. And since we are still in February, at least when we are recording, that's why we are not commenting on them to not influence the voting results. Well, this is regarding the latest classes. We are done, and I think now it's time for Michael to tell us more about the upcoming topics in the JS Mag magazine.
Well, February's catching us a bit short because today is the last day of February already. We've got a few things in the pot and a few things that are slated, though it's getting very down to the wire here. Janine Meyer has contributed for a while and has a piece on developing a Jigsaw application with JavaScript, front-end JavaScript. Callum McRae, who's written for us before, also has a piece on kind of diving a little deeper into some under-the-hood jQuery stuff, what's going on in jQuery 1.9, and kind of digging into what he's found interesting in that. Robert Fisher, who has written for us well in the past, many, many moons ago, has contributing a piece on AngularJS and some of his recent work with Angular. I think I've talked about Angular a couple times, and I love to hate it, or I hate to love it, one of the two. I've tried it a couple of times, and I can do the basics, but I fall apart when I try to do more complex stuff. So actually on a recent project, I had wanted to use Angular, and it ended up moving over to Knockout JS. So that's kind of personal stuff there. But those are some things that I know that we've got in the pipeline. A couple of things we may have in the next couple of days. Given the shortness of the month, we probably will have things out by probably the 4th or so, probably March 3rd, or probably like Monday or Tuesday. So that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, and
well,
hello.
And
well, not anything about that, but and personal here. I'm about 99% certain on this because actually I've already bought a ticket and I got a visa. Heading over to Moscow again for a couple of weeks in April. So anybody here that's watching this, if you're in Moscow, Russia, and would like to meet up the second half of April, shoot me an email.
April. Okay.
April.
We'll be there.
You'll be there. You're gonna
Well,
be there.
Arthur's is closer.
Yes.
At least in the map, it's just two fingers.
Yeah. There's two
From
fingers.
Latvia to.
I'm just glad it's not the one finger.
Yeah.
How far is that
but,
actually?
Well,
I don't know, hard to say. I couldn't walk so much, so
Yeah.
well, you
gonna
would get
try.
tired. Yeah.
It's only a 2-hour flight. It can't be that far.
Nah, maybe not. Talking about Latvia, I had an hard time in the post office because the guy was trying to figure the name of the country in Portuguese. And I was trying to check my mobile phone what Google Maps would say, because there are what are the neighbor countries that have similar names?
Lithuania maybe. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia.
Belarus.
Lithuania, that's right.
Yeah.
It also starts with an L, and imagine if they miss your elephant and they would not get it. Well, anyway, you practically ended this podcast, and just to mention very briefly that I've been working on something very interesting that will be hopefully available in the next maybe months, not weeks, because I am not sure if I'll be having it done already, which is basically a system that will assign points to the actions that the users will be doing on the site, authors, not just authors that publish classes, but other users that somehow contribute to the site, and they will be entitled to earn special privileges. And for instance, Artus has been helping on testing and also giving some suggestions, and things are building up very quickly, and I hope sometime soon I can announce this. But the ultimate result of this is that the site will start to be the sites, both JS classes and PHP classes, will start to become more engaging. People will be eventually willing to participate more, and hopefully we'll see more interesting contributions, not just in terms of classes but other types of content. Who is clapping? Okay.
I'm just testing out. I'm just testing out.
Yeah. Well, with this note, I would like to thank you again, Michael, for returning to the podcast. As we mentioned in the last episode, we missed you. We missed your jokes, your good humor as usual.
Thank you so much.
And also thank you to Arturs for coming to the podcast. At least at this time, I think the sending out the invitations worked, and I just want to add that anybody else can come to the podcast. It's not just us. I'll try. What you need to do is to go on the page of Google Plus. There is an account that says Manuel Lemos, and then there is JS classes and PHP classes in brackets. And if you add to the circles of that account, you'll get an invitation next time, because you'll be added as friends. That's the part that was making it harder to invite more people, but this time I think it worked. At least Artus came. Yeah. So thank you for coming. So see you next month. Bye.
Adios.
Bye.